Hello, welcome to History 2301. This is Texas History. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I'll be your instructor for this class this spring semester. Now, what we're going to be doing in this video presentation is to offer students a class introduction to this course. Consider this as the first day of class. If you were to be taking this class in person, this is the day when you meet the instructor and the instructor goes over the syllabus. This is a very, very important document that, by the way, it's already posted on Blackboard for you to review. And the syllabus pretty much explains everything you need to know about this course, meaning that it explains the course requirements in terms of, let's say, the textbook, the mode of learning, instruction as well is very well explained. What is the duty of the responsibility on a weekly basis across the semester? How can students prepare for the exams that will be offered in this course? And of course, also go over the exams in terms of the format, how the exams are formatted as well. There will be, again, some rules and also guidelines that students need to know about those exams as well. Everything will be explained. I will also explain the course assignment. There will be one major course assignment due at the end of the semester, April 24th. I will explain that as well. We'll talk also about opportunities for extra credit. Again, there will be extra credit assignments available for students, and those are not mandatory. I will explain that as well. The grading policy, what are the factors that I take into account? What are the percentage for each of those factors? What other factors I use at the end of the semester to calculate grades and the like. All of that will be explained. And also at the end, we'll talk about some tentative dates as well in the schedule in terms of when the exams are going to be scheduled and when they're going to be due, the course assignment and the like at the end of the course. So this is a very, very important video presentation, and I highly recommend that you watch this presentation as thoroughly as possible. It's going to be anywhere between 50 minutes to an hour, give and take. And I will endeavor to explain everything you need to know the structure, the format of this course, and also explain to you the major links on Blackboard for the instructions and the like, where the course assignments are located, and where you're supposed to be also submitting the work as well. So you will also learn how to identify the major areas of the Blackboard page, and so you'll be able to navigate it as well very effectively. Okay, so let us start by then turning our attention to the Blackboard page. Again, this is the major or the main platform we're going to be using for this course. So we click here, is History 2301, and it's going to take us to the main page. And usually when you open your Blackboard page for this class, it's going to take you to the announcement page. And you'll see the major announcements that are posted week by week and so on. And up to now, I have posted an announcement. I'm yet to email it to you. On Monday, I will be sending this announcement to you, just indicating that I'm going to drop a video on Blackboard, this video right here, which is going to be posted at the very top of the menu, which says Class Introduction. And on Tuesday, it will be ready for you to watch, and I'll send you another announcement saying, welcome to the course, and I have posted a class introduction video for you to review and so on. And it's critical that you go over that as thoroughly as possible. Okay, so every time I post an announcement on Blackboard, I'll be sending you an email announcement. Okay, so you'll be receiving a Blackboard email every time I post an announcement. Okay, so let us begin with the syllabus. This is the second link you can see here in this menu column to the left. You click on it, and it's going to take you to the syllabus page. I made sure to post the entire syllabus on a single page that will be ready for you to read. Okay, very accessible. If you need to download this document, which is very important, so you can keep it handy in your computer and so on, I have also provided a Word doc, as you can see here. I mean, in case you want to download it. Okay. All right, so let's go over the syllabus, and let's start from the very top. Again, this is History 2301, Section 003. This is Texas history, and my name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I will be your instructor for this class this semester. And the fastest and easiest way to reach me is via email. My email is listed there, as you can see. And my policy regarding email communication is Monday through Friday, I will be responding within a 24-hour period. Okay, so you send me an email regarding an assignment, some concern regarding grading and so on, the lectures and the like. Again, Monday through Friday, it will be within a 24-hour period. It is only during the weekend that I might take 48 hours. So if you send, let's say, an email Sunday morning, for sure you'll be receiving a response by Monday morning. Okay, for sure. Okay. Now, based on ACC policy, however, all email communication between faculty and students must take place within the ACC supplied systems, meaning that if you send me an email from your private email account, I'm not going to reply to that email account, okay, because it's a private one. So if you want a quick response from me, let's say you're dealing with some issue, an emergency, etc., you need to contact me as soon as possible, and so on. Just use the ACC email account to write me that email, and I will respond as soon as possible. Okay? So that's ACC policy. All right. So let's move forward. Now, in terms of textbook, there is going to be one required textbook for this course. And that is a book by Keith Bolanto, is this one, as you can see here. Okay, it's called Texas Voices. Make sure you're getting the 5th edition, not any earlier editions, because this textbook is not a standard, conventional history textbook in which you read Texas history like a narrative from cover to cover. Instead, what this book is a collection of primary sources. What is a primary source? A primary source for historians is a source that comes directly from a historical figure that has no interpretation and no filter, like a letter, memoir, a statement made by a very important historical actor, that was important in forging Texas history. Can be activists, can be politicians, can be intellectuals, writers, etc., that were prominent, in the past in kind of shaping, if you will, the course of Texas history. So it is really the voice, the direct voice and thought of the historical actor that has not been interpreted or gathered by a historian. So you're really listening to the voice, once again, of historical figures. Why this book is important is because you needed to complete the course assignment, the main course assignment that is due at the end of the semester. Okay, this is why you need the textbook. This is not the textbook that you're going to be following along as we're proceeding with the lectures, and that you are kind of looking at the same material being reflected in the book. Now, the book, of course, offers a wonderful glance, if you will, into the minds and hearts, if you will, of historical figures in Texas history that kind of complements the lectures. It's a supplemental, if you will, source that is adding more and more color, again, to the lectures that I will be providing, of course. But in practical terms, you need the book for completing the assignment. It's actually a report that you need to complete. I have gathered a series, I've selected a series of documents from this textbook for you to read. You're supposed to read those documents and answer some questions on those documents, okay? And it will enhance, of course, your understanding of Texas history. It will just enhance it, okay? I recommend that you obtain this book as quickly as possible because, again, the assignment is due late April, but you need time to complete it. Again, if you just decide to buy the book by, let us just say, the beginning of April, you have very limited time to do all the readings and work on the report. But also keep in mind that obtaining the book can be also problematic if you wait long enough, because although you can buy it from ACC bookstores, Highland campus carries this book, by the way. ACC bookstores tend to return unsold copies at midpoint in the semester. Let us just say by March, maybe even before the spring break, or maybe immediately after the spring break, they start returning the unsold copies back to the vendors, assuming that students who did not buy the book by then obtained the book from other sources, maybe online, etc. So they're not going to wait until April, in other words. So students who wait long enough find out that, well, I didn't find it at the bookstore. They returned those copies. They're out of stock. And now they're scrambling to get the textbook from online sources, which you can get, of course. But by then it's not really too late. But again, you'll have to wait at least a week to receive the textbook, It's also very important that you get the 5th edition, because the documents of the 5th edition do not appear in earlier editions. Okay, so if you get the 4th or the 3rd, you'll find out that the documents that I listed in the report and the assignment are not there. They're not in the 3rd or 4th edition. Okay, so I've had students in the past emailing me saying, there are about 5 documents that are not located in this 4th edition. That's a problem, of course. Okay. At any rate, so let's move forward. Again, this is an online asynchronous course, as it is stated right here. Okay. It is an online asynchronous course, which is, once again, delivered fully online. It has no designated class meetings for real-time instruction. It's not like a hybrid. In other words, there will be no synchronous meetings of any kind. So it's very flexible in that regard, again, that you can tailor your own schedule. At the same time, as I will explain in just a few moments, due to the fact that this is a lecture-based course in which you're going to be learning all of this material through a series of recorded lectures that you can watch at any time, I highly recommend that you watch the lectures on a timely fashion, meaning that every week I will be sending notifications to students saying, you need to be watching this lecture and so on. And there will be 2 lectures per week that you need to be watching, in other words. So I highly recommend that regardless of your schedule and so on, that you find some space every week to watch those 2 lectures at whatever time you want. Again, it can be Sundays. Again, you can actually arrange it in any way is possible. But try avoiding accumulating lectures week by week, because by the time that the first exam comes along, you want to go back and kind of review everything all at once. It's going to be a monumental task. It's going to be very time consuming. So just keep a certain rhythm and pace, and try watching 2 lectures per week. Okay. All right. So in terms of the course description, in terms of the course description, meaning what we're going to be covering, what kind of issues, what material we're going to be looking at in this Texas history course. Well, this is a Texas history course that is a survey of Texas history looking back as far as prehistoric times. Imagine. So this is really a grand survey, if you will, of Texas history that looks at all of Texas history from prehistoric times all the way to the present. Okay. Unlike history courses that kind of are subdivided in time periods like history 1301, 1302, and so on, this Texas history course looks at everything. Okay. So the way we're going to proceed looking at this course, due to the fact that there's just so much to look at, is by, for practical purposes, if you will, we're going to subdivide this grand time period into 3 main historical eras. Texas history will be presented to you in 3 main historical eras. The first historical era is going to look at what I call the indigenous Spanish and Mexican background. Okay? Meaning that this is like the kind of like the formative, if you will, stages of Texas history, which starts with the indigenous populations that inhabited this region. So we are going to be taking a glance at Native American history. And of course, I mean, we look at the origins of Native American peoples, you know, how they came, at least the theories, again, that are presented to us by archaeologists in terms of their origins, that they migrated into the Americas in the distant past from Asia. We're going to look at that, how they settled in different parts of the continent. And we are going to be paying attention to the way that Native Americans began to kind of create their own worldviews, their own cultures and societies, their religions and the like. This is really fundamental. This course, some of the things that you're going to learn is that Texas history course will pay attention to all of the different groups, ethnic, cultural, linguistic groups that participated in shaping, forming, forging the history of Texas. Okay, so it is really going to present a multicultural, if you will, analysis, the different cultures, the different societies, and so on. And we start with the Native Americans, of course. Okay, so we take a glance and look at the Native American world. We identify the different civilizations that had a direct impact in the region of what today we call Texas. And those are the Mississippians, for example, the Mississippian civilization, the Pueblo culture of East Texas and New Mexico also had some influence in the western region of Texas. And also the Toltecs, okay, of central Mexico also had an impact in the development of the indigenous societies of Texas as well, because there were, of course, trading systems, of course, in which the Toltecs had contact with the different tribal groups of the Rio Grande Valley, for instance. And at some point, the Toltecs also migrated, some of them, again, into the western portion of the region of what today we call Texas, and they settled there and they brought their Toltec culture, again, into the Pueblo Indian culture of West Texas and New Mexico. And of course, we see a great influence there as well. So again, this is what we're going to be looking at initially in this course, the kind of like the opening topic of this course, by looking at the indigenous peoples. And we also identify other groups as well within Texas as well, like the Gulf Coast, the Central Plains, groups and the like. Again, their way of living, their different societies and the like. We also look at the Spanish background, because at some point, the Europeans are going to arrive to the continent. Christopher Columbus was the European navigator that encountered the American continent. He was claimed to be the discoverer, in this case, of America. Again, from the perspective of Europe, that is to say, the Europeans did not know the existence of America. And Christopher Columbus kind of initiated a new era, if you will, in terms of opening up, if you will, the world to the existence of other continents and other civilizations and the like, to initiate a new era. It's called the Age of Encounters. Again, the encounters of the different peoples of the world, the different civilizations and the different cultures are encountering one another. In that regard, is considered to be a discovery, in other words. So, the Spaniards sponsored the voyage of Columbus, and of course they claimed credit for his discovery, so to speak. And they initiate the process of colonization, the Spaniards. So the Spaniards were the first European society group or kingdom that begins this process of territorial expansion into the American continent. They conquered different parts of America, and they eventually sent explorers and conquistadors into what is called the Gulf Coast region of Texas. And we see encounters between the Spaniards and the Native Americans. And out of those encounters will come, of course, a kind of conquest of sorts. And the Spaniards kind of claimed all of that region that today is called Texas for the Spanish Empire. And they built, of course, a colonial world in the Americas. And Texas becomes really a province of the colony of New Spain that was headquartered in Mexico City. Mexico City was the capital of New Spain, and Texas becomes a province, if you will, okay, of New Spain. And of course, the Spaniards are in the process of settling and colonizing the Texas region by sending missionaries to spread Christianity among the indigenous population. They send troops to build forts, station them. We see the formation of the very first towns as well in Texas, Spanish towns. And what the Spaniards are doing is that they're kind of introducing Spanish culture in Texas. They're really inserting, if you will, Spanish culture and society in the New World. They're bringing their own institutions, their city infrastructure. They're bringing Christianity, as I said, as well. They're bringing also cattle to start ranching, which is one of the primary, most fundamental economic activities back in Spain. And they're kind of building Little Spain, what they call New Spain, in the New World. It was called America. And Texas becomes part of this process, again, in which the Spaniards are trying to shape this region according to Spanish values and the Spanish way of life. Okay, so there are festivities, there are celebrations, there are customs, traditions that the Spanish introduce, and we get this very strong Spanish influence. At some point, we see that in the New World, the middle class, the Spanish middle class, the colonists in this case, the entrepreneurs, landowners, small scale ranchers, administrators of Spanish descent become very resentful of Spanish policies that favored the colonial administrators who were born in Spain. And that produces, of course, the movement towards independence. And we see a revolution in the making starting in 1810. The revolutionaries, the insurgents in Mexico City declare independence from Spain, and Texas becomes embroiled again in this struggle for independence as well. We're going to assess how Texas forms parts of this revolutionary struggle for independence from the mother country, Spain. What were the reasons that the Tejanos, in this case, participated and decided to throw their lot on the side of the insurgents? What was the struggle like in Texas and the like? We're going to examine all of that. And from that, a new nation is born. Once Mexico becomes independent from Spain in 1821, we see the formation of the Mexican Republic. And Texas becomes part of that process as well. Now, Texas becomes a new province, once again, not under the Spanish colony of New Spain, but now it becomes, Texas, starting in 1821, a province of the new nation of Mexico. Okay, it was part of that process. So there's a Mexican period that spanned from 1821 to 1836. And likewise, we see great influence taking place from that time frame in which Mexico City, the capital of the Mexican Republic, is exerting its influence on all the provinces of Mexico. Again, so there are, of course, certain changes that take place in that time period. Most of the changes that really affected Texas from 1821 to 1836 have to do with an open door policy that the liberal government of Mexico enacted very early on in the 1820s with the United States, allowing settlers from the United States to come into Texas to colonize it. I mean, not really colonize it in the sense of building colonies, but rather to kind of settle, build settlements and population to increase the population of Texas, in this case, by allowing Anglo-Americans to come into Texas, to welcome them, to bring in their expertise, their capital, their enterprises and the like, in order to foster economic development, of course. So we see Anglo-American immigration taking place during the Mexican period, something we're going to get to see. And of course, there were real estate agents coming from New York City, like the Austins, for example, okay, the Austin family, Moses Austin, Stephen F. Austin, and so on, that are coming. Among others, there were other firms as well from New York that were obtaining land grants, contracts from Mexico City to bring in more and more settlers into Texas. And, although this was considered to be a very good development for fostering capitalist formation in Texas, the beginning of capitalism and the like in Texas. In the end, this kind of backfired, on Mexico because when in 1835, Mexico changed the government from being a republic to being a dictatorship. The Mexican general Antonio Lopez de Santana seizes power in 1835, kind of brings the Mexican Republic to an end, and there's a new group that seizes power in Mexico. The conservatives, the church, the army, the landowners seizes power, and they create a dictatorship. They also abolish slavery. They abolished slavery in Mexico as well. And they suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, affecting, of course, the civil liberties of all Mexicans across the realm. And all of those issues together kind of compiled to affect the population of Texas that was made up of Tejanos, those were peoples of Mexican descent and Spanish descent, but also the Anglo-American population. And they both joined forces to call for independence. And we see, of course, in 1836, the so-called Texas Revolution. Okay? Texas declaring independence from Mexico, and there's going to be a struggle, of course, between the Mexican army led by Santana and the Texas forces. And in 1836, Santana was defeated. In 1836, by Sam Houston, who was leading the insurgents, and Santana was forced to sign the treaty, the peace treaty, the Treaty of Velasco that granted Texas its independence. So from 1836 onwards, let us just say from 1836 to 1844, Texas becomes now an independent nation, a republic. And this is something that we're going to get to see as well. The period of Texas when Texas was fully independent and it formed a republic, its own system of government, its own currency, its own international treaties and the like. And they were really trying to create a new society. We see different presidential administrations, Sam Houston, Lamar, and so on, trying to really create a new nation. The attempts each one made in order to form, an independent Texas. And ultimately, in 1844, 1845, the efforts that succeeded in bringing the annexation of Texas into the American Union. And so by 1845, now Texas joined the United States as a new state in the American Union. And so from being an independent nation, now we have Texas becoming now an American state. And so we also examine that transition from nationhood to statehood, so to speak, and how Texas kind of joining the American Union becomes part of this southern economic enclave, if you will, in which becomes part of this slave-holding South, so to speak. It was a cotton economy, producing cotton for exports through the use of slave labor. So how slavery becomes entrenched in the Texas economy, and the Southern way of life and Southern culture really becomes part of this larger American Southern region as well. We examine all of that as well. All of that ultimately culminated in precipitating the Civil War in 1860, when slavery became a dividing issue in American national politics, and the election of Lincoln in 1860 threatened to bring about the end of slavery in the American Union. The U.S. South decided to secede from the country and kind of create a separate entity, political entity, and so on. So we also see that process, how Texas was embroiled in this secessionist movement, Of course, not everybody agreed in Texas to secede from the American Union. We look at that very closely. There will be certain parties, certain leaders, particularly Sam Houston, that really advised not to secede from the United States. But unfortunately for Sam Houston and others, the secessionists won the day and they separated from the United States. And of course, Texas becomes part of the Confederacy, and we examine, of course, the Civil War, okay, the span from 1861 to 65. And we look at all of the issues that Texas was dealing with during the war, the successes and the failures and the factors that led ultimately for the defeat of the Texas Confederates as well. Okay. We also look at the process of Reconstruction. By looking at Texas particularly, of course, there's a national, of course, understanding of what Reconstruction entailed, meaning that the North, the winning party of the Civil War, wanted to really reform and revamp the entire Southern economy and Southern social and cultural structure, if you will, dismantling the slaveocracy, the power of the slave owners and the planter class, and trying to free the slaves and really grant them civil rights and the like. Again, that was what Reconstruction entailed. And we see, of course, that being played out in every single state of the ex-Confederacy, including Texas. And we look also, again, in this course at this process, how Texas was going about this process of Reconstruction, liberating the slaves, and the struggle for writing a new constitution that will eliminate slavery, but at the same time allow for African Americans to become citizens of the state and the country, and to provide civil rights, and the struggles again of the African American community, again, to kind of earn those rights as well in the new documents and the like. The last part of the course is going to look at Texas entering the modern age. So the Civil War really was the breaking point in the timeline of history, which really ended a grand historical era. Okay, so the Civil War is really, in U.S. history, period, if you want to look at the macro, level of history, the Civil War really was the watershed, if you will, moment in which this grand era that spanned for not only hundreds of years, but thousands of years, it was the agricultural civilization, in which people were mainly living in the countryside, working the land, surviving from, growing their own crops and the like. And the era in which also some human beings were treated as property, meaning that they were to pay tribute, to render their labor to a lord or master of sorts. It's kind of like a feudal system of masters and slaves, or masters and servants and the like. That kind of social structure, which is a feudal structure, disintegrated. Again, when you look at the history of the United States, but also globally, by the mid-19th century, feudalism, again, as such, this social structure of masters and servants, or masters and slaves and the like, was shattered. Okay? And from the ashes of that feudal order that was dismantled, we see the emergence of a new society. This new society is called modernity, a more modern society in which we're going to see a new system coming into being, and that system is called capitalism. Okay, it's a class-based system in which people have the opportunity to own property and create all kinds of enterprises and businesses, make money, or sell their labor for a wage, for that matter. And in doing so, in trying to pursue their own interests and trying to make money and accumulate wealth and build wealth, there's the opportunity for people to have what's called social mobility. That there's like an economic ladder and you can actually move up or down depending on your luck or effort, etc. Again, so we see that coming into being in Texas. We see the introduction of a capitalist system, the introduction of industry, meaning that now Texas is experiencing an industrial revolution. There is the massive expansion of railroads in Texas, the massive expansion of commercial enterprises, mining, agricultural businesses. We see also cattle ranching and the like. The formation of large cities. Now Texans are moving into the cities as well. They're working inside of businesses, companies, enterprises, shops, industrial plants of sorts. There's the oil industry on the rise as well. This is the energy production in Texas, which is going to be central really in launching Texas into this new modern age. And so this is the formation of the large industrial cities in Texas, like Houston, Dallas, for instance, San Antonio, El Paso, Fort Worth, Laredo to a certain degree, and so on. Again, so this is really giving rise to a new society. People are now pursuing money. There are, of course, institutions of higher learning, universities, and so on, in providing people the opportunity to earn degrees in the different areas of the economy, technology, science, the economy, law, and so on, in order to prepare people for the advent of this new capitalist system. Again, so really, Texas is transitioning from being an agricultural region, an agricultural economy and society in which most people live in the countryside, by the way, work the land and so on, to being an industrial capitalist society and economy in which people are going to be participating in industrial jobs, for instance, or in the creation of different businesses that are geared towards the market, not only the domestic market of the United States, but in the international market as well. So again, Texas is really going through a whole makeover, and we're going to be documenting, again, all of those changes as we go along. We're also going to see some of the problems that, modernity brought to Texas. Like, for example, how people were experiencing in the industrial sphere. People that were really operating the machines, working in the mines, in the oil fields and the like, what we call the industrial working class, they were experiencing a lot of hardships. Again, low wages, for example, long working hours during the day, no medical insurance, no compensation in case of accidents and the like, no rights, in other words, no workers' rights. And that really mobilized the industrial working class to organize and create trade unions and the like. And so we see the formation of a labor movement. So we're going to track also the reactions or responses within Texas to the problems of modernity. In this case, the problems that industry was creating for the industrial working class. We're also going to document the struggle of the Texas farmer that felt being left out in an economy that was more and more dominated by big businesses, big agricultural companies and railroads that were really dominating the market. The agricultural prices and the like were dictated by big businesses, and the American farmer is going to now propel to the front line, so to speak, to also organize and create their own collectives. Those are the kind of the equivalent of a kind of like a trade union, so to speak, but they call them the collectives and so on. And they're also going to become very politicized, and they're going to find common ground with the industrial working class and create a political party, a third political party called the Populist Party. So again, industrial workers in Texas as well as farmers, are now entering the world of politics, and they're called the populists. Yeah, and they're going to challenge the two main political parties, Republicans and Democrats, again, for bringing about changes and reform. What really brought serious change and reform in Texas was really the participation of the middle class as well, the so-called progressives, mostly middle class intellectuals and urban dwellers, shopkeepers, lawyers, small merchants, and the like, who really wanted to bring about more progressive change at the national level, but also at the state level as well, to address the problems of the cities that were very disorganized. There were epidemics, for example, in the cities, poor waste management systems, no public health agencies, and the like. They wanted to bring up an end to the monopolies in the country and the like. Again, so we see the progressives kind of joining forces with the populists, or at least kind of adopting some of the issues of the populists. And we see, the progressive reforms being implemented in Texas. That got us, for example, the 8-hour working day, the minimum wage, for instance, liability laws for employers, etc., compensation, cleaner cities, and so on, public health agencies, and the like, clean water, all of that, sewage systems, and the like. So we see all that struggle being played out in Texas. In the 20th century, there are other issues we're going to be looking at, and that is, for instance, Texas kind of participating in one way or another, again, during international struggles like the First World War. Again, how the Texas economy was geared, if you will, for oil production. We see the formation of industrial plants for defense systems as well, the formation of military bases in Texas. And again, this was all part of the struggle for the United States entering the First World War. So we see also that, again, how Texas was in many ways transforming itself as it was, if you will, participating more and more on the global international scene as well. Okay. Another topic we're going to get to see is the Great Depression. Okay. The Great Depression affected not only the United States, but the world at large. We're going to see the causes of the Great Depression that led to it, of course, and we're going to get to see how the United States, through the administration of FDR, was trying to get out of the Great Depression, address the problem of massive unemployment, the lack of basic vital resources like housing and food and so on, bring about certain changes in the capitalist economy, trying to bring about regulation, welfare, assistance, and the like. In contrast, those efforts with the efforts implemented in the state of Texas. The state of Texas differed from the efforts of FDR in many important ways. In Texas, there was a very strong belief in laissez-faire, in limited government, limited taxes, and that all contrasted with the efforts of FDR that really required a bigger bureaucracy, more state intervention in the economy to create, assistance and safety net programs to assist Americans, of course. And in Texas, we see, of course, a quite different approach that tried to limit the participation of the state in trying to create those kinds of programs in Texas. So we're going to see a compare and contrast, if you will. Okay. Then our course will look also into the Second World War. And just like in the First World War, Texas also becomes part of this process, aiding the cause of the Allies by, export oil production, of course. And of course, defense contractors building, of course, industrial plants in Texas as well. And that created, of course, a boost in the economy of Texas because of that as well, more military bases. So again, Texas becomes part and parcel of the war effort, the so-called home front, if you will, of the Second World War in trying to aid the Allies in the fight against the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Again, so we see also that and how after the war, Texas really kind of stayed on this kind of war economy course in which the Cold War that kind of came after the Second World War required defense systems, of course, military production and assistance, and more budgets for defense, of course, to be increased in order to deal with the threat of the Soviet Union and the like, and how the Texas economy went through an intense boost as a result of the Cold War, and that really expanded and exploded the middle class in Texas. Of course, more jobs, there's going to be more money, more consumption. The standards of living are now on the rise in Texas, and that kind of created a more modern, society in the state of Texas, in which people were now pursuing, of course, commodities, money, status, a higher standard of living, and the like. And that created, of course, a whole new society. The last part of the course, we'll look at the civil rights movement nationwide, but also how the national struggle for civil rights was experienced locally at the state level. Here in Texas, we're going to see, of course, the different groups, Mexican Americans, African Americans, etc., that were creating organizations in order to bring about more equal conditions and equal protection before the law and the like. And the latter part of the course is going to look at Texas entering the age of globalization. That now we're seeing the emergence of a globalized community, if you will, that there's now a world economy, and Texas becomes part of this global community, so to speak, as a result of new technologies like satellites, computers, the World Wide Web, telecommunications, transportation systems, traveling and the like, and also immigration, trade agreement deals and the like. And Texas is now joining, if you will, the community of nations, commercially, economically, and culturally as well. And we see those changes taking place in Texas society and culture as well. Yeah. So all of that is going to be assessed in great detail as we move along the semester. Now, it's important to also know how you're going to be learning this material. This material, the way you're going to be learning this material is through a series of video lectures that are presented to you the same way that this video presentation has been recorded. I'm using the same software, and I organize this material thematically, meaning that everything that I just explained in the last 30 minutes or so will be given to you in a series of topics. There will be 9 topics across the semester, and those topics are listed right there, as you can see. And so every topic is covered in 3 video lectures. So it takes about 3 video lectures to cover one topic fully, and each video lecture spans for about an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, an hour and 20 minutes. So we cover 3 topics, and then we have the first exam over that material. We move into the second part of the semester. We cover 3 more topics, and then we have another exam, the second exam. Finally, we covered the last era, modernization, as I said, and then we cover those last topics, and then we have the final exam. Okay, so you might be asking, so where do I find those lectures? Okay, so if you go back here to says course content, there's a link titled instructional materials. You click on it. You find two folders. One is called the recorded video lectures, and the other one is called lecture outlines and questions. The top folder contains all the lectures. You click on it, and there's 9 folders, and each folder contains 3 videos of 1 hour and 20 minutes each. Your responsibility is to watch 2 per week and take notes as if you are attending a face-to-face course. Okay, so I will be showing you the lecture outlines. There's going to be, bullet points. So if you're looking at the bullet points, you said, okay, so he's really, talking about this individual or this law or this concept, etc. This is important. I need to pay attention to what he's explaining, the analysis, and write it down. All of this is important because all of this material will be covered in the exams. Exclusively, the exams will be based on the lectures and nothing else. So you don't need to worry about anything else. No outside readings of any kind, nothing. Just the lectures. That's all you need to do. That's your only responsibility. Again, so there are 9. Again, so I will be notifying you week by week which 2 lectures to be watching in that week. Once again, you can arrange your own schedule, but for that week, it is very important that you review those 2. The second folder has the actual outlines. The outlines that I'm showing you during that topic as we review it, they're shared right here. And at the end of each outline, at the end of the document, you're going to find a series of questions. And those questions are for studying purposes only. Meaning that, okay, so he lectured about the indigenous peoples of Texas, so on. For three videos, he talked about that. What is he going to ask about it? When we get the exam, well, I'm actually letting you know what are the questions that you need to study for that topic. Okay? Okay, so let us continue with the syllabus. Okay, so now, as I said, there will be 3 exams for this course. Each exam is going to cover 3 topics, as I said. Okay, each exam will be worth 25% of the final grade. Now, the way the exams are going to be formatted is that they're not going to take place on a specific day and time. In other words, although it says the first exam is due February the 27th, it doesn't mean that that day you're going to have an exam, let's say at 10 o'clock, etc. No, it means that it's due. And what I mean about that is that the exam is more like a writing assignment. And you have 5 weeks to do it. Okay, how do you're going to carry it out? Well, you have to watch the videos, the first 3 videos. I'm talking for the first exam, you watch the videos for the first 3 topics, the first 3 folders, you take notes, and then what the exam entails is that there are 2 parts. Part 1 is called the topic section for 70 points. You choose one topic from a set of 2. Let me just show you an example. And this is, kind of critical at this point. Once we're talking about the exams, let us just look at the first exam right here. Okay, so it tells you the first exam, it says part 1, 70%, 70 points. Choose one topic from a set of 2 and answer all the questions on that topic. Okay, so what that means is, okay, look, I'm giving you the choice to choose either the first topic on the indigenous peoples of Texas or topic 2, the Spanish colonization of Texas. Okay, so what that means is that, well, which of those two topics am I going to actually review? So if you feel more compelled, let us just say, to know more about the indigenous peoples of Texas and so on, so you watch that topic. You watch the 3 videos of that topic and gather all that information from the lectures and answer the questions presented in that order. So this is not really like an essay you have to write, but rather follow a question and answer format and answer each question as fully as possible. As fully as possible. Again, one by one in that order. Now, the instructions clearly indicate that only lecture material will be allowed in the answers. Meaning that if you use, for some reason, any kind of outside source, doesn't matter. Okay, well, maybe you have previous knowledge of the subject matter, something that you learn elsewhere and so on. Doesn't matter. And you decided to write it down. You decided to consult a book, maybe the web and so on, and you put that information there. Your work will be disqualified. Okay, because what that means is that you did not review the material for this class. So every class that you take, you're taking a class with an instructor that brings a certain expertise in the field. He or she is going to teach you something, okay, about this particular field of knowledge. Okay, so you're taking a class with that instructor. Okay, so if you don't attend class, let us just say you miss classes and so on, you really don't go, you're not really participating in anything about the class, you're not learning what you're being taught, and then you suddenly appear on the day of the exam, you take it, but then you use all kinds of information to write it. Well, I mean, what that means is that you have not been present. You have not been actually learning the material. Okay? So in our age today that, we can go online and find all kinds of sources, encyclopedias, web pages, AI that can actually do the work for you. There's a lot of ways that you can bypass doing the work and instead just relegating that work to a computer. So the computer can do it for you. And then you submit it and then you get a grade, right? So because of that, I have now established a very strict rule for my classes in which the instruction is provided to you via lectures, and you have to watch the lecture, meaning you have to attend class, because that's actually like attending class, in other words. And only the lecture material will be allowed in the answers, because otherwise I really do not know who is actually doing the work. If I allow students to write all kinds of knowledge, of information from a multiplicity of sources that have nothing to do with the class I'm teaching, what that means is that students can just simply go online and put things together and just submit it without watching a single video. And it's really, again, a way to waste the opportunity to actually learn, what the instructor, what this class has to offer. You're just, in other words, discarding it altogether. Okay? So this is why I have this very strict rule. If I read anything from your exam that I did not lecture, your work will be disqualified. Another thing is, some students decide to transcribe what I'm actually saying during the lectures. They use different softwares and so on, applications. They play the video and they just get the transcription automatically, mechanically from the software, and they kind of submit it. I'm able to know that. I'm very, very good at detecting work that was not written by a person, a real human, that is to say, something that was software generated mechanically and so on. So if I'm seeing that this work is simply a transcription of my videos is not going to work either. Okay, your work will be disqualified, because that it doesn't mean that you review the material presented to you, that something else did it for you mechanically, in other words. So it's very strict. I have very strict rules about testing. Again, you have 5 weeks to do it. Open notes, pretty much. Again, this is not a timed exercise. So there must be some red line here that, well, yeah, it's open notes. You have 5 weeks to do it. But it has to come from the material I'm lecturing. Okay. Part 2, the key terms, is for 30 points. And here I'm extracting key themes from another topic. In this case, from the third topic. Let us just say this is a total separate topic. So in part 1, you have the choice to review only one topic. Okay. That's your choice. But for part 2, everybody has to review the topic from which the key themes are extracted. Okay, so you choose 2 and you elaborate as fully as possible. This is not just a definition. Those key themes is really, again, a whole elaboration. It's a whole little exercise. It's an area of history that you have to break down, explain, and elaborate. Okay? So it's an extended response. If you want to earn the 30 points, you must really present an extended response. Again, each exam is identical, meaning it has part 1 and part 2, exactly the same. Again, so it's the same format. Nothing changes. The only thing that is different is the due date. Okay, the first exam is due February the 27th. The second exam is due April the 10th, and the final May the 15th. All right. Now, there's extra credit opportunities. There are 3 extra credits. They're not mandatory. They're totally optional for students who wish to add extra points to their exams. If you're struggling, again, you can go to course assignments right here under course content. You click on it. Course assignments presents all of the assignments for this course. The ones required are the first 4. The extra credit assignments are optional. There are 3 extra credit assignments there for you to read. There's an article. You read the article, you answer some questions, and you submit it by April 24th. And you get 10 points. For each extra credit assignment, you get 10 points towards an exam. Okay, whichever exam you want. Doesn't matter. So again, so there's plenty of room for improvement and progress. Now, I mentioned there is a course assignment for this course. It's called the Study Questions Report, based on this textbook right here by Keith Bolanto. I've extracted 10 documents for you to read and answer questions. Okay. The guidelines are all here, as you can see in the syllabus. It tells you which document it is, in terms of the chapter number, page number. It tells you the title of the document. Sorry about that. Okay. And it tells you also the questions that you must answer. Again, the format, very simple. You start out the report by writing on the very top of the page, first, the title of the document. You must indicate which document you're working on. Okay? So here, for example, the first one is called Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca Encounters Texas Coastal Indians. And then you start writing the question and then the answer, question and answer. And for each document, you must come up with 1 full page double-spaced. You move to the second document, and likewise, you write the title on the very top of the document. Green DeWitt's Empresario Contract, April 15th, 1825. And then, again, follow the same question and answer format, one by one. So at the end of this report, you'll end up with 10 full pages double spaced. You save all this document either on Word or PDF and upload it on Blackboard by April 24th. Okay? So you have the entire semester to work on this slowly, gradually, and have it ready, again, for submission by the due date. Okay? It's 25% of your grade. Now, the grading is distributed as follows. Each factor, each assignment and exam is worth 25%. First, second, final exam, 25% each. Study questions report, 25%. If you factor in the extra credit assignments, they're optional. Well, you got more points to be added to the exams. It increases your chances of getting a good grade. And also, please keep in mind that I factor in, at the end of the semester, progress and effort. If I see that you were progressing, first exam, 78, second exam, let us just say 85, final exam, you made a 90. Okay, so you're progressing across the semester. You're improving. And then you submitted one extra credit assignment. And somehow you ended up with an 88.75 grade average. Well, progress and effort will be factored into the equation, meaning, well, you were really improving, you were bettering across the semester your grades, you submitted one extra credit assignment, that's effort. And so if you need 1 point, maybe 1.25 points to get into the 8th grade, again, I'll give you the final push. So only when I see that students were trying to improve, they were progressing, and they were submitting extra credit, I give you, again, the final push if you are close enough, okay, for the next letter grade. All right, so at the very end, I present tentative course schedules and assignments, like, for example, when the first exam is due, February the 27th, the second exam is April the 10th, and then the report is due April the 24th, and then May the 15th is the final exam. I will be notifying you anyways when the exam is coming up. A week in advance, I'll let you know, so there's going to be plenty of communication taking place across the semester on a weekly basis, where we are, what we're covering, what lectures you're supposed to be watching, and so on, when the exam is coming up, and so on. Okay, so this is all I have for you. I hope you have gathered enough information and insight into what this course entails, what is the format, the structure, the method of learning, your responsibilities, for instance, the exams, what are the critical, of course, issues to look at in terms of how to address, the exam, what to avoid as well, and also the major links, again, on Blackboard. Those are the major links. Of course, all the work has to be submitted right here. It says submit work. You have the first, second, final exam, the report. Everything is submitted right here by the due date. Again, it's very, very straightforward, very simple to navigate, where the materials are located, the assignments, and where you're supposed to be submitting those works. Okay, so this is all I have for you. I hope this video presentation has offered a very good guidance and orientation for this virtual course. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will be responding very quickly via email. Once again, this is Texas History 2301. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I'll be your instructor for this class this semester. And I'll be seeing you for the first video I'll be sending again this week. Okay, this is all I have for you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.